So, hello again and welcome to Visaya's Couch. I am believing and I'm having strong faith that you have had a productive day so far and that things are looking up and you are excited about all of the possibilities that lie ahead and you're optimistic about them and all the beautiful things that a person could look forward to on your plate and on your priority list. I have had one of those days where you wake up with optimism and you're excited about something or the other that you were looking forward to the previous day, especially since a few hours earlier I had relaxed on the couch and taken time to take a mental walk through my day, and I was able to examine them before drifting off, and even dipped into the memory pool to bring forward some of the memories that were just minding their business in the dark recesses of my mind. So that helped me sleep really well, and I woke up enthusiastic and looking forward to all of the things that the day had in store. So I decided to go downstairs. Now, a little background on why things followed this particular stream of events. The previous day, we had a heavy rainfall, and it was windy, and the droplets were fat, and they weren't the little ones. They were like these straight rods, water rods, connecting the sky to the earth. That kind of rain, consistent, heavy and fast. So, and because I like to potter about and grow things and watch them grow and care about them, I have a little flower patch, but I turned it into a vegetable patch. Me and my neighbors are actually competing to see who, silent competition, nothing fierce, nothing aggressive, just to see who's the better gardener. So I have seedlings sprouting, I have bits and pieces of vegetables that I could just harvest. I've got mint and they're doing really well. The neighbors graciously let me have some of their mint, which was profuse at a certain time. But I digress. Let me stick with the story. So, the summary of that little background is that I have a little garden patch where I potter about and I care about my plants. So, the previous day we had a heavy rainfall, and because of that, one plant in particular had given in to the weight of the rain and had toppled over. So I had in mind that first thing the next morning, which is this morning, I would go downstairs and I would chop it off and just give the soil a break so that it could rejuvenate, and eventually I'll plant something else there. So there I was, waking up from a night on the couch, expressing myself and happy and looking forward to the things that I would do today. And I rushed downstairs. First thing I did was, do you really want to know the sequence of events from when I woke up? So I woke up. Of course I did wake up. And I drank water, which is one of the first things I do in the morning. I drink a tall, not glass, a tall cup or should I say, mug of water, room temperature most of the time. So I just, finished drinking that, and I went straight downstairs because I live on the first floor anyway. So I went straight downstairs, got my gardening tools with a little butcher's knife that I was going to use to chop down the plant that had fallen over. And usually when I go downstairs in the morning, I take a look at my plants. I fraternize with them. Yes, I am not weird. I fraternize with my plants. I ask them how they're doing. I just, spend some time with them, gossiping about nothing in particular, asking them if the insects have been or had been polite and friendly and whatnot. And I take a look at them just to assess how they're doing and all of that. And I know they hear me, because I'm going to digress again. A curious story. There was a time when I was away from home for a few weeks, and I got one of the neighbors, not the ones that I am competing with gardening wise, but a third neighbor. I begged her to please water my plants every other day while I was away. And here's the curious thing. While I was away and while this neighbor was watering my plants, I don't know what happened, but she took from the same water source that I take when I water my plants, and she watered the plants religiously. But by the time I got back, actually before I even got back, she sent me a message to say she didn't know what was wrong, but the plants were turning yellow. And as it turned out, when I did return, all of the plants, not just one, not two, all of the plants had turned yellow. They were yellowing and all of that. But about a week after I returned, they started turning green again. How do you explain that? I explain it to mean that, or should I say, I understand it to mean that plants can miss you when you're not around, especially when they're used to you. And then you go away for a any length or any period of time, and the plants will miss you. And they will indicate that by either turning brown or yellow or wilting or something, or just looking miserable while you're away, and when you return they get better. Anyway, so I fraternize with my plants and talk to them, gossip and all of that. And while I was doing that, I noticed, to my horror, that someone had decimated my aloe vera bunch. I have a small patch of aloe vera plants, about 7 really juicy looking ones, and then the other little, are they saplings? I don't know what you call them. The little ones surrounding these 7 really healthy aloe vera plants. And someone had greedily gone and snapped off about 7 do you call them ears, or do you call them fingers, or do you call them leaves? I'm just going to say leaves. About 7 of my aloe vera leaves, at least 7. It was too painful to count how many, but at least 7 leaves of the aloe vera had been snapped off. And not snapped off neatly. This person just had a good go at my aloe vera plants. I was heartbroken. I was in shock. I just went straight to my other neighbor, banged on her door, asked her to come out and asked, to show her what had happened. And she was as shocked and hurt as I was. She was scandalized. I was angry. I wanted to choke someone. It was that bad because I care about my plants. And then someone comes along and shows how much they do not care about plants. So I went from one neighbor to the other. I went to the other neighbor, not the one who had watered my plants. I went to another neighbor and asked her, and she said no, she had absolutely no idea what was going on, and she had not touched my plants. So there was one neighbor left to ask, but she was sleeping because this was at around 7 a.m. this morning. As I said, it was one of the first things I did. Drink water, do the other things, rush downstairs to chop off the plant that had fallen over because of the heavy rainfall. So it was still quite early by some people's standards. And the fourth neighbor was still asleep. So I stood outside downstairs, practically ordering thunder and brimstone and dispatching them to the address of whoever it was. Who I wasn't sure who it was, but I was already that livid. I was already threatening all sorts of things that would happen to this person who had violated the sanctity of perhaps sanctity is a word that I shouldn't be using, but it was my kind of, violated my sanctuary of plants, maybe. Sanctuary is yet another word that I shouldn't use because, anyway, you get the gist. So there I was, livid, and I was letting anyone who had half an ear know how angry I was about the development. And then eventually the fourth neighbor, why am I saying the fourth neighbor? The third neighbor woke up, and because I had sent someone who lived with her to let her know that I would like to talk with her as soon as she was able to come out. So she came out and asked what the issue was. And I showed her my plant and asked her if any of her visitors, because I knew that she would not have done that, was someone who came to visit her, must have done it. So I asked her if any of her visitors would have done it, and she said she was certain it was one of the people who came to visit her. So she called him. It was a man. Can you imagine that? I'm not even going to go into all of the reasons why that is nasty. The man would see an aloe vera plant, and they would just go in there and without permission just go ahead and have a go, carte blanche, at what you have been lovingly, tenderly taking care of and nurturing over months and months. And they will just walk in. They don't even live in the compound. They'll just walk in and just think that they have the right to snap off or to violate your efforts. I was livid. So she called him, and she was angry, and she spoke sharply to him, and then she asked him to apologize. She gave me the phone and asked him to apologize. Well, I let him have several pieces of my mind in how uncouth and how very what's the word I would use, barbaric it was to walk into someone's compound or someone's home and just violate their property. Why would anybody? So that soured my morning to a large degree, and that's what I want to just let go of here on the couch today, and talk about the fact that we take several things for granted. We take barging into people's lives, people's personal space. We take it for granted a little too often. And if that's the way, if things continue like that, I think the world is going to turn even more sour than it is at the moment, because It is just the polite thing to do, the civilized thing to do, to be nice, to consider how our actions would affect other people and how they might perceive us, how they might translate our actions. You don't just intrude and force yourself into somebody else's life without permission, as far as I'm concerned, because that person who violated my plants, that's what he did. He forced himself into my consciousness, even if only for a few hours in the morning, without my permission, by doing what he did to my aloe veras. What would it have cost to have just knocked on my door and asked me, please may I have some of your luscious looking, and I must confess the aloe veras were doing really well. For whatever reason, I am probably an aloe vera whisperer of sorts. Anyway, so my point is, I think that life will be much better if we took a little more time and made just that little bit more effort to do things properly. Let us not lose the ability to observe social graces and etiquette and the rules of engagement, of social engagement. We will not sacrifice those things on the altar of civilization, on the altar of change, because that would, as far as I'm concerned, be tantamount to ripping the fabric of civility. And what do you have left? You'd have civilization walking around in virtual nakedness because we have thrown politeness to the dogs. And that's what I want to leave here today. That we should think about it. You're not entitled to take other people for granted in any universe, because your life is your life and my life is my life. Choice is a very important thing. Thank you for tuning in to Fisayo Miss Couch. I'll see you again soon.